Welcome, John Paul. So Paul is an author of this wonderful book, Take Control of Your Life. It is a book that focuses on his life story and growing. And thank you again so much for joining us. And this is a wonderful book you have here. Can you please give us a quick summary as to the history of the book and how you got there?
Not very different than a lot of other people. I was severely abused as a child by my alcoholic father, who I was 7 years old. Other than the beatings on my mother and the siblings and myself, I was 7 years old, about 10 days before Christmas, this time of the year, excited about Santa Claus coming to town. And my dad, being the individual that he was, walked in to the home. My brother and I were playing on the landing. He walked in from outside carrying his .22 rifle. And he looked at me and he says, he looked at both of us. And he says, "I just killed Santa Claus. There's not going to be a Christmas this year." They went downstairs, he put his rifle down. Ironically, that's the same rifle that he used to kill himself when I was 17. So coming from my background, I acted out in school and misbehaved. I always thought of myself as a failure because I was being told at home that I was a failure. And I was being told in school by some of my teachers that I was a failure. And my marks and my behavior were consistent with someone who was a failure. So when you start to believe the things that you're told, the hurtful things that you're told, when you start to internalize that and believe it, then you act accordingly. You act like a failure. You are a failure. Nobody will love you. You're ugly. You're this, you're that. When you start to have that stick to you by not being aware that you have a choice, number one, and not doing something about it, number two, then you are the person that you believe yourself to be. That was me, and I behaved according to being a failure up until grade 7. In grade 7, I started to like girls in school and trying to impress them, but I was known as the bad boy in school and the failure. We had a teacher, and I don't know if he did this on purpose. Looking back at it, I kind of think he did. But what he would do is when we wrote a test, he would call the person with the lowest mark to the front of the class to pick up their papers first. Guess who that was? Well, that was me. I was conditioned to fail. And I was always the first one to take the walk of shame. And it would be Nadeau, 46 out of 100. Come and take your paper. And I would walk in embarrassment. In grade 7, he did this. And he says, "You know what? We've got a test in a couple of days. And I expect everybody here to pass, except for you, Nadeau." He says, "I already know you're going to fail." And for me, I took that to heart. First time I took something really, really to heart. And I went back and I didn't have the skills of studying the way other children did. I never learned how to study, but I did it. I worked my butt off preparing for that test. Wrote the test, and as was customary in his class, he would call the person with the lowest mark, right? And that was me. But this time it wasn't me. The second person wasn't me. The third person wasn't me. The fourth person wasn't me. Halfway through the class, the rest of the students are going, "Why aren't you up there?" And I'm going, "I don't know." And in my mind, I've got one of two things going on. I either did really good because I think I knew the answers, or I did really bad, and he's going to make an example out of me. I'm going to die today. The second last person to be called, the two Browners in the class, Giselle and Lise, my cousin. Those two were always competing for number one spot. My cousin Lise got called before I did, which left Giselle and I was the second last to be called. That was a defining moment in my life where that failure actually succeeded, and I started to believe in my abilities, or at least work towards achieving something. Because of the way that I had been treated by my father, I promised myself when I was a child that when I grew up, I was going to become a police officer so I could arrest my dad. That was my goal. Of course, we all know he killed himself when I was 17, and I didn't get to do that. But the passion for serving others had already been instilled in me. And so I did become that police officer. And I think what happens, and getting back to, this is a long way to get back to this story here, but it's all in the book, is that things happened to me that I chose not to have define me. I've worked with victims of sexual assault and child abuse. I worked as a detective. I was a hostage negotiator. I was an international peacekeeper. My life was saved by a terrorist in 2005. I was about to be killed. My partner and I were surrounded by 40 terrorists who began to beat us to death, and a terrorist stepped in and saved my life. And I know why. It's because of the way that I treated him on an earlier occasion. Whatever we give out, these vibrations that we were talking about, William, whatever we give out to the universe, we usually get in return. If I smile at you on the street, you're likely to smile to me. If I give you the finger, you're likely to do the same. We usually get what we give. And so if we all start to give love, as you were talking about earlier, we all start to give dignity and respect. I sat with criminals, murderers, rapists, child molesters who confessed their crimes to me. Why? Not my looks, my behavior. It's what I gave to them. You have to separate what somebody does, from who they are. Because we are all imperfect people living in an imperfect world. But we are all living in this world. And our purpose should be to help each other through this life, this thing that we call life. Because one day I'm going to be too tired to row in my life. I'm going to turn to William, or I'm going to turn to you and I say, can you take over for me today? I'm just too exhausted. And Grace, you're going to go, of course. And then tomorrow, you'll ask me for the same thing. We are here, to support each other and to make the very best out of what we have. Now, I didn't set out to write a book. That was not in the plan. But I had some interesting police stories. I'd come back and I'd say, hey, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today and this kind of stuff. And I'd listen to other people's stories and I'd tell mine and they'd go, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I said, no. On LinkedIn, this gentleman, he reaches out to me, self-made millionaire, and he says, we got to have lunch. And I said, okay, free lunch, great. Went to the Spoke Club here in Toronto, met with him. And he says, Paul, you got to write a book. And I said, I've been told that before, but you know what? It's really not me. He says, no, you really do. You've got some stories to share. You've got some knowledge to share. You should write it. I said, thank you. Thanked him for the lunch, and I left. 2 other people that week, random people, said the same thing for no reason whatsoever that I was aware of. They didn't know my stories. They just heard a couple and said, you've got to write a book. So it's almost like the universe says, you got to write a book. And it gives you a little tap and you go, no, thank you. Second time, it's a little bit firmer. It's like, hey, you got to write a book. And I just did that to the microphone. Well, I apologize. And you say no. The third time, it's a slap in the face and you'd better listen because we are given these messages. We are given, we are stronger than we believe. We spend far too much time preparing what we're going to wear for the day than walking into the closet of our minds, because we have 2 closets in our minds. We have a dark closet. It has shame. It has fear. It has, it has every terrible emotion on the one side of our brain. The other side of the closet is hope. It's beauty. It's love. We don't step into the mind of that and choose our emotion and our attitude for the day. We get dressed for the day to greet people, but we don't take 2 or 3 minutes in the morning to decide how we're going to greet the rest of the world. We just don't, and we've got to. One of the things, as I said, when that was told to me by 3 different people, write a book, write a book, write a book, that's my message, that I'd better start listening. And I did. After writing it, I self-published, because who gets published anymore? It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. But HarperCollins found it. I might have sold 50 copies, but HarperCollins, the big, publishing company, they found my book and they called me and I met for coffee and they pulled out my book and they said, we want to publish this across the world. And I said, thank you. So that's how the book came around. And it really is, every chapter starts off with a true police story that I experienced. Some of them will make you cry. Some of them will make you laugh. Some of them you think you're in a blockbuster movie. Because that kind of stuff just kind of happens to me. And so it's quite incredible. But then I go into the story, or into the lessons, rather, that I learned, either from someone or from having experienced the things that I did. And, since publishing it and since having HarperCollins publish it, I've had people email me, and, just a joy to get these emails to say, your book changed my life. One woman, she wrote, and I cried after reading her email. She says, I was about to commit suicide. I've been a bad person. I've treated my kids bad. I was getting ready to kill myself when I came across your book in a library. And she says, I picked it up. And she says, I've had it ever since. And I am a survivor. So, that's a long way of answering, but we are incredibly capable of changing our circumstances by recognizing that we have a choice. We can choose to either be sad, we can choose to be happy. If you change your state of mind, and some people say, well, that's not easy, Paul. No, it's not. But we are born. Imagine this glass and this water, this clear water. This is what we are like when we are born. There's nothing to darken this water. But then suddenly something happens, and it may be somebody yelling or somebody screaming or us hurting ourselves. Little bits of dirt get mixed into this pure water, and we start to see no longer a clear glass of water, but a muddied water. And depending on how much mud is placed in there and how much we allow to keep it there, that's going to define our happiness or our survival. So some people say, well, yes, okay, so how do we get rid of it? Well, I'm going to tell myself some nice things. Yes, that's nice. Do mantras, do whatever. The thing with that is that it's not enough, because all you're doing is you're mixing the mud. You're not replacing it with fresh water. So what you need to do is you need to either pour the old stuff out or start pouring some new stuff into it to clear the mud from that glass, to make it as pure as you possibly can. And that comes down to awareness and choice, and it comes down to just having the greatest experience you possibly can because you choose to. I am not defined by what happened to me. I'm not defined by what people say to me. I am an actor, and I walk into an audition, and the director says, no, you're not for me. And if I leave and I go back and I start crying over not having this opportunity, or I ask a pretty woman out, hey, would you like to go out with me? And she says, no, I don't. And I take that personally. I go back and I define myself from what other people have thought of me. Well, it may not be that it's me. It may just simply be that I'm not a fit. But if I take everything personally, then I am defined by what other people say. So the idea is that we are all actors, but we get to choose what hurts us and what doesn't hurt us. And when we take things too personally in life, and we just internalize that sadness, then that's what's going to come out of us. Because we do, when we fail, we do behave as failures. When we are sad, we behave as sad people, and we share that negative energy around. But then when we choose to be happy, that's what we share with others, and that's what people pick up on. They pick up, hey, there's something about this person. There's something about your energy. There's something about your radiance here. And that's how we connect in this life. But we have to connect first with ourselves, then with others. So if you say, I am stuck, then you are stuck. You are. Guess what? Just give it up. But once you tell yourself that I am limitless, that I can do this, that I can become that person, I can become this state of mind, then you are becoming limitless. And again, it's something that you remind yourself until it becomes a strong muscle. Don't just tell yourself once, I'm limitless. Or the example that was used, earlier, you look at yourself and you say, hey, I love you. If you just say it once, I love you. There's no passion there. I love you. I love you. I love you. And you're talking to yourself in the mirror. I love you. You are marvelous. Believe it. You know, again, it comes out in your body language. It comes out in the voice that you use. You know, if you just say, I love you. You know, that's, you know, you tell your girlfriend that, you tell your husband that, whatever, I love you. You know, it's like, you know, oh, I really believe that, Paul. Yeah, you are convincing me. But if you say, I love you and I believe in you, and this is what we got to tell ourselves all the time is I believe in you. Because guess what? A lot of people out there, they don't care. We have to start caring about our own garden. This is our garden. We have to every day, we have to feed our garden in order for our garden to grow. And our garden is our thoughts. Our garden is our body. Our garden is what we want out of life. Feed yourself first and then feed others later, you know, because that's what we're here for. Again, be your best self and share your best self with others and they will do the same. We get what we give. We get what we put into it. And again, it's about anything. If you're depressed, it's your responsibility to get yourself out of it because nobody's going to rescue you. You're not going to be rescued. If you sit on a mountain waiting to be rescued by somebody, it's not going to happen. But when you look to the universe, you open yourself up to the universe, you say, listen, I can do something. First, I've got to take the first step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, doesn't it? It begins with a single step. The idea is that we keep on moving forward. So if we tell ourselves, I love you, I love you, I love you, I believe in you, then you will begin to believe it. And it will become this comfortable pattern that you are unstoppable and that we are limitless.
What are some of the tips you would give us to our listener audience as to how they can deal with this loneliness or depression?
One of them is to remind yourself that you are limitless, that there is nothing, almost nothing that you are incapable of doing. And, you know, when you set your mind to doing something, you will attract the energy, you know, necessary to get it done. It's like business. It's, you know, like if you say, this is too hard, I will never do this. You're absolutely right. You say it's too hard, it is too hard. You'll never succeed. You'll never get in shape. You'll never change your circumstances. Again, it comes down to how we see ourselves, how we choose to see ourselves. It's like building a muscle. You can't just do one thing once and think that it's going to last. You know, you have to start working at things. Again, the first thing that I suggest to people is to walk into the closet of your mind every day and choose what attitude you're going to have. And if you happen to be sad because it is the holidays or whatever, change your environment. You know, go out and exercise. Go out and take a walk. Look at the beauty around you. You know, go out and socialize with people. Don't sit at home watching Netflix all the time or dwelling on the things that have hurt you. Begin to examine your life to see what is working for you. I have my health. I can breathe. I'm not sick. How do I get myself out of this anxious or depressed state? It's by changing my environment. If I stay in the same environment and with the same mentality, you know, that brought this out of me, I'm so sad, you know, I'm missing this person. Okay, yeah, you are missing that person, and it's okay to miss that person, but do something about it. Either reach out and meet somebody new. Reach out, go and do something, take a walk, make a list of things that you are grateful for. You know, we often miss looking at the things that are working in our lives or our gratefulness for what our lives are. So it's once you change your state of mind, you change your circumstances, you know? And it's, yeah, we can dwell on our pity or we can create something much better.
Wake up and realize that life is about living and experiencing and growing, and the people who have gone, they're not gone, they're just on another life.
That's right. And you're an example of not having stayed in a place where the things that have happened to you defined who you were.
Absolutely.
You chose to get out of that. You chose to clear your water. So, if there's something, let's do a hashtag, clear your water.
Your
We'll know what that's all
Clear your
about.
water,
Clear
yeah.
your
So
water.
every time
Make
you
it
feel-
pure.
Every time you feel like you're getting angry, just clear your water.
Clear your water,
Just
clear your mind. Get up, move around,
Yeah.
go meet somebody. Sit down with a complete stranger in a coffee shop and have a conversation. How's your day going? They'll be shocked as heck. It's like, what are you doing talking? But some of the greatest relationships have happened just simply by meeting or bumping into somebody. Hey, I'm sorry, or coming out to an event like this and meeting great people, about moving and clearing your water.
So, Paul, what would be the one thing you would like to leave us with today? It's a great book. Of course, I will buy one myself. But what one thing you would like to leave us with, as far as the lesson of life, taking control of your life, and dealing with the struggles?
Thing that I suggest to people is to walk into the closet of your mind every day and choose what attitude you're going to have. And if you happen to be sad because it is the holidays or whatever, change your environment. Go out and exercise. Go out and take a walk. Look at the beauty around you. Go out and socialize with people. Don't sit at home watching Netflix all the time or dwelling on the things that have hurt you. Begin to examine your life to see what is working for you. I have my health. I can breathe. I'm not sick. How do I get myself out of this anxious or depressed state? It's by changing my environment. If I stay in the same environment and with the same mentality, that brought this out of me, I'm so sad, I'm missing this person. Okay, yeah, you are missing that person, and it's okay to miss that person, but do something about it. Either reach out and meet somebody new. Reach out, go and do something, take a walk, make a list of things that you are grateful for. We often miss looking at the things that are working in our lives or our gratefulness for what our lives are. So it's once you change your state of mind, you change your circumstances, And it's, we can dwell on our pity or we can create something much better. If I had to put one thing down, your past does not have to equal your future. Whatever happened to you in the past is in the past. There are 3 time zones: the past, the present, and the future. What happened 2 minutes ago, I can't change. Yeah. I cannot go back and change the fact that I knocked this microphone and probably made you jump. I can't change that.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in 2 minutes from now, I can plan and hope for, but I don't know if it's going to happen because anything can happen right now that I may not have control over. What I do have control over is this moment right here. This is the most important moment of my life because I'm here with you, all of you. And I get to experience this, and I get to, to shape this. So this is the most incredible moment of our lives. We're not aware of it. A lot of us go by and we're just got our blinders off. So the lesson, the past does not have to equal the future. The most important moment of your life is the present moment. You get to choose how you choose and live that present moment. Sadness, happiness, your choice.